It's Monday on the Matt Sager podcast. I'm Matt Sager, and I get it now. Garfield, the Boomtown Rats. Mondays suck. This weekend in particular was a rough one. The losses of both John McCain, American hero, war hero, veteran, and a face of decency in an increasingly indecent world. Just tragic loss. And along with John McCain, we lost playwright Neil Simon. And just to put the cherry on top of the Sunday of shit that was this weekend, we had a massacre at a gaming expo. I just finished convincing a friend of mine, spent weeks telling him he'd been offered the job of emceeing, I think it's maybe Battlefield, some shooter, Twitch expo. He's going to be the announcer for weeks to come. And those of you who are very familiar with my career might know that I have a very embarrassing past as the host of Matt Sager's totally intense, in-your-face, thumb-twitching, joystick-vibrating video game show. This is from roughly 2000, 2001, before they called them podcasts. It's so dated they called it internet radio. My bosses were among the management of UFC. They pulled their money together with the gone and thankfully forgotten Dave Herman and put together a bizarre internet radio network. And I was the guy who hosted the video game show. I've got a hilariously embarrassing headshot that maybe I'll put up sometime if there's a gun to my head, and only if. So gaming is fun and gaming is wonderful, and I understand that gun people care about their guns, but this kid, it's a Madden exposition in Jacksonville, Florida, and David Katz, not my former agent at Don Buchwald, and also not the Jacksonville lawyer who writes books about gun laws. Another David Katz was playing Madden, a 24-year-old kid. He lost, and then went out to his car, got a handgun, returned to the center where the expo was being held, and shot the place up. 2 are dead. The shooter is also dead. There's many injured, and it's just awful. And John McCain, who passed and took with him a sense of decency that I really hope we can one day live up to again. We're in dire need. I disagree with him on a lot of stuff during his political career. That's not what this is about. He was a good human being. He shows that in ways that just really rocked my world, just leveled me. Just heartbreaking. He penned a goodbye letter to America as he was dying. I can't imagine the strength of character. In my final days, if I find myself penning a letter, expressing my regrets, sharing my disappointments in myself and my hope for the world, I'll be very surprised. That is the act of a man of great character. And the letter itself, I'm not going to read it verbatim, would seem rather inappropriate, especially for a voice guy, to take these beautiful words and try to somehow make them my own. But some of this, I urge you to read it in full online. It's available pretty much everywhere. Bloomberg, CNN, every news outlet has this letter, but a couple of lines just are so powerful and so beautiful and say so much about him. It's him eulogizing himself in a way that I don't think any of us are sufficiently eloquent to do ourselves. So I'll just read a little bit from the very beginning and a little bit from the very end because this needs to be heard. First off, he's not angry, he's not spiteful, he's not vengeful, he's not bitter. He's thankful for having had the opportunity to fight a war for America. A war in which he was taken prisoner, abused, held hostage and tortured for years. And many members of our modern Republican Party, our president, mock him for it. If it's affected him, he doesn't show it in his final words. His farewell statement opens with, "My fellow Americans, whom I have gratefully served for 60 years, and especially my fellow Arizonians, thank you for the privilege of serving you, and for the rewarding life that service in uniform and in public office has allowed me to lead. I have tried to serve our country honorably. I have made mistakes, but I hope my love for America will be weighed favorably against them." I agree on both counts. He did make mistakes. He also owned up to them all the way to the very end. Even as, over the weekend, Sarah Palin, who we would never know were it not for one of his fateful mistakes about a decade ago, was trashing him because he's not falling in line lockstep behind every crazy notion put forth by the party. She said, "Oh, McCain, he's a weirdo, he's a freak. He had weird people around him." Well, yeah, he certainly had one very weird person around him about a decade ago. Actually, two, if you count Joe the plumber. But how dare you even utter his name, you non-term completing failed Alaskan governor lunatic. While she's talking about, how's that Hopi change going for you? John McCain on his deathbed has this to say: "Do not despair of our present difficulties, but believe always in the promise and greatness of America, because nothing is inevitable here. Americans never quit." Most Americans. All but the occasional Alaskan governor. We never surrender. We never hide from history. We make history. Powerful words from a powerful man whose legacy, I hope, leads us to a brighter tomorrow. Playwright Neil Simon, my God, just a weekend of devastating loss. Want so badly to just have a fun, happy podcast, and I will return to that ASAP. But you gotta acknowledge, you can't just ignore the pain. You gotta process it, you gotta understand what it means, gotta work through it, gotta hope for a better tomorrow. And look at this man who sets such an example of what it means to be an American, what it means to be a patriot. He's gone now, but his spirit doesn't have to be. That's my unusually somber and solemn message on the Matt Sager podcast. We're going to get right back to comedy and goofiness and wackiness and fun, effective immediately. Also, I got a ton of emails this last week because I started out on Anchor.fm. Now I'm on iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, Overcast, Breaker, Google Podcasts. Videos of this podcast are showing up on YouTube and SoundCloud. So the question has been, Matt, what is your platform? And the answer is, I'm like Heisenberg. I'm all about distributing my product as efficiently to as many people as possible. So to that end, if you go to mattsagerpodcast.com anytime, and mattsagerpodcast.net works as well, it'll always take you to a page that has not only the newest episode of the Matt Sager podcast, but also the complete archives. And also, you ought to come visit my brand spanking new Facebook page for the podcast. It's facebook.com/Matt Sager Podcast. So go ahead and like that. Stay up to date on all developments related to the Matt Sager podcast, and go ahead and get in touch with me. As I've mentioned maybe once or twice, I'm looking for maybe a co-host or two. As a voice actor myself, I'm very interested in having voice actors work with me on the show. Comedy writers, newsreaders. Ooh, and an intern to abuse, just like I was abused. No, I would be lovely to you. I assure you, I'm very fun to work with. So send me an email. It's matt@mattsager.com. It's matt@mattsager.com. You could also give me a call. Leave me a message about the show, your thoughts, your submissions if you want to participate. 646-535-4788. Follow me on social media while you're at it. On Twitter, @MattSager. Facebook, The Matt Sager, and my voiceover page is Matt Sager VO. On Instagram, it's Real Matt Sager, and I've got more social links besides. Plus, episodes of this podcast, blog posts, my contact info, voiceover reels, and more. That's all available for you at mattsagervoiceover.com.